Good afternoon, everyone. We will just start in a few minutes, give people a few moments to hop on. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for hopping on this call. My name is Bob Dorsey. I am the Chief of Staff here at the Department of Small and Local Business Development. And on behalf of Director Suggs Evans, who could not be here at the moment, I just again want to thank you for taking the time out to join today to talk about minimum insurance standards regarding contracting with the district government. One thing about Director Suggs Evans is that she is really focused on three core principles right now, and that is efficiency, transparency, and responsiveness in government. So in terms of efficiency and transparency, we wanted to make sure that we have the agencies responsible for implementing the district's insurance standards on a call with our local businesses so that you all are fully aware of any minimum insurance standards that are required when you're trying to contract with district government. So that is kind of the impetus behind the sessions that DSLBD is facilitating with the Office of Risk Management and OCP throughout this week, so that you are fully aware again. In terms of responsiveness, we also wanted to make sure we were convening this meeting with our CBEs so that we could hear from you all in terms of your thoughts on the minimum insurance standards, any challenges that you might face when trying to meet them, and that'll better inform our agencies on how to respond on behalf of district government in this administration. So this really is a great opportunity for you all to provide feedback, guidance, concerns, and also to get your questions answered um, in terms of just being a responsive, collaborative conversation. So with that said, again, I want to thank you all for being on. I want to thank our partners at ORM and OCP for also being on the call. And I will turn it over to Robert Preston at the Office of Risk Management.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for that introduction. As Bob mentioned, my name is Robert Preston. I work for the Office of Risk Management. I'm the Insurance Program Administrator here. And I'd like to thank certainly DSLBD for pulling together these webinars for this week. I really appreciate that. And from the feedback we've gotten, those have been very helpful. And certainly have been from my end. Also like to acknowledge our sister agency, Office of Contracting Procurement, who's online, and also our agency, the Department of Insurance, Securities and Banking, who's also been a great assistance in pulling these together. and with providing some additional resources that we'll talk about in the presentation. So as excuse me, as Bob mentioned, we will be talking about the minimum insurance standards for contracting with the district government. And so that'll be the focus of this presentation and our meeting today. We're talk a little bit about the goals and objectives for the meeting, give you a little background as to how we got to where we are today, provide you with the minimum insurance standards. This session is concentration in construction, so that's what we're going to be focused on today. There are other webinars that focus on other industries, but that'll be what we'll be mostly focusing on today. Next steps as we envision it here at DC Government, and then questions and discussions. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, just feel free to raise the hand emoji or function in Teams. If you and then at the end of the session, we'll open it up for like verbal conversations and discussions. It's just to help make sure that the agenda, the presentation and the discussion is fruitful. All right, so first thing, goal objectives. So as Bob mentioned, we really focused here on supporting CBEs to meet the insurance requirements for district government contracts. How we plan on doing that is first of all to listen and then understand your challenges with meeting those insurance requirements in district government contracts. Additionally, we plan on providing some education resources to assist you with those. And then ultimately also promote transparency and consistency by publishing those minimum insurance standards for various types of contracts. How we got here. So the district would like to make contracting easier through transparency, as Bob mentioned. The district would also like to hear the obstacles CBEs are experiencing for contracting with the district, especially in the context of insurance. So I've been with the district for now over 8 years, all in insurance. And over those years, I've had lots of opportunities to talk with CBEs in various forums in the context of insurance. And we've got some great feedback along the way, and this is just another forum for all of you to be able to do that here. I do want to emphasize that through my years here, that these standards are not new, so there shouldn't be any surprises in that element at all. And then there are minimum standards. These are minimum standards that are subject to change on the scope of work. So depending on what we're asking to do in a particular contract, those minimum standards, the limits might increase, or there might be an additional type of insurance you may need depending on the scope. So I just want to throw that caveat out there that, you know, these are not like ultimately what you may see in a solicitation, but certainly these will give you good ideas as at least what the minimum should be in order to prepare yourselves for working with the district. All right. So we at the Officers Management look at insurance to be used for us and useful to us in 3 different ways. One, we want to make sure that our CBE community has the right insurance in place. So there's a claim that the CBE organization can survive a claim financially. So we want to make sure that you have the right insurance and the right amount of insurance. So when we contract with you, that you're able to financially survive a claim. We also look at it as DC government being fiduciarily responsible for taxpayer dollars. So if we have a claim, we want to make sure that the expense associated with that claim doesn't come out of taxpayer dollars, but that it comes out of a third party, in this case, insurance companies. And thirdly, we use the insurance requirements as a way to vet organizations, and that happens indirectly through the application process with the insurance company. So as insurance companies, you know, apply, make you fill out applications and ask questions about your standard operating procedures and other protocols that you may or may not have in place, it allows us to kind of depend on those insurance companies to to make sure that either you have those in place or insure you appropriately or not insure an organization based on what they have and have not in place. So with that, I'm going to go into the construction-related contracts and the insurance requirements. The minimum insurance standards for those types of contracts. I do want to say that some of these do have caveats, like for example, sexual abuse, molestation, U.S. Longshore and Harbor Workers Act coverage, etc. And what I mean with that is that even though these are listed here as the minimum insurance standards, they may not necessarily apply to the solicitation that you're applying to, because those are very specific to different types of projects. So, and I'll go over those in a minute. So the standard insurance requirements are general liability, auto, workers' compensation. Employer's liability goes with workers' compensation. It's the same coverage. So I look at those as those three standard insurance requirements that you probably see in 99% of the solicitations from the district. For construction, we do require a $10 million umbrella and a third-party employee crime of $10,000. Also, an environmental pollution liability at $2 million and a cyber liability coverage of $2 million. Now, these other ones here are kind of based more on scope. So professional liability based on the work that's done. Most likely architects, for example, will be required to carry this professional liability. Jones Act has to do with construction and minimum wage. Protection and indemnity will also be required for certain types of projects. Riggers liability for cranes, for example. U.S. Longshore and Harbor Workers Act coverage. That's where any work in or around water. Builder's risk. So builder's risk, we generally for properties that are owned by the district, we will acquire that ourselves for the district, and we will insure the prime and the subcontractors on that project for builder's risk coverage. Installation floater has to do again with moving things, installing, sometimes for modifications or even for internal like renovations. And then sexual abuse and molestation for those places where the contractors will still be working, where there's a vulnerable population present. So like schools, for example, sometimes the schools are still in operation when construction happens. If it's in addition to a wing, for example, etc., we would require that type of coverage. We do talk with our brokers on a regular basis. Currently, we have 5 different brokers for the district. We meet with them either on a weekly, monthly, and no later than a quarterly basis to discuss what is available in insurance world, and what are reasonable limits. What are the changes for organizations to get in terms of a variety of industries, and we're here specifically talking about construction. So we do evaluate these on an ongoing basis to make sure that what we're asking for is obtainable, number one, and number two, also reasonable based on what the cost of a claim could look like. With that, we kind of envision to publish the minimum insurance standards for sure. So you have a record of them. We realize that throughout the years, people just see what's in a solicitation, but can't really anticipate what might be a minimum for a future solicitation of the same type. So we certainly think that it would be helpful to publish that. We will commit to providing additional and continual education about insurance. So that is what form that takes. We will let you know as we develop it. Certainly some suggestions have been made and some things that we have thought of that could possibly happen is, for example, having one place to look for when you're looking for insurance when contracting with the district. So one web page, for example, that also has some additional resources, such as a list of brokers, education about the types of insurance, like podcasts, etc. So that would be in relation with all of our sister agencies that have those resources. So with that, I really want to come to the meat and potatoes of this, and that's to hear from you all. What are some suggestions you have when you've worked with a district in terms of contracting and then trying to get insurance? What are some suggestions you have to improve that, or any other experience you may have in terms of insurance when contracting a district? That would be very helpful. This would be the time to do it, and so we can make sure that we capture and integrate your comments and suggestions as we finalize these then our next steps. So I do see I'm not sure, somebody named RB Ramesh, I guess. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. You're asking about builder's risk. And do you have a third-party management? I'm not sure what you mean with that. If you could either clarify that in the chat or just unmute yourself. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and take those raised hands. Georgie.
Hi, yes, good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for the overview. I have two questions. Will we get a copy of this? And then the second question I have is, if there could be some, I guess, a comment, additional details when we're submitting documents, it isn't always clear what's required as a prerequisite in terms of insurance coverages, and then what will be required at the award if we were awarded the contract. So I think being able to really distinguish between what we should have as a foundation and then what is expected to be had once we're awarded, because I know that, it's been the miscommunication or misunderstanding that you're supposed to have them all, and then when you speak to people, no, you just need these two. But if you're awarded the contract, then you're going to need them all. So some level of clarity around what's needed to submit your bid, and then what will be needed if you're awarded.
Okay. So in terms of copies of this, we won't be sending out a copy, but this recording will be available on the DSLBD's YouTube channel. Reason we're not really sending out materials at this point is because we are, still in the discussion period with our CBEs and internally. So we want to make sure that once we send something out, that it's towards the final, if not the final version, so it's less confusion. In terms of what you should have for insurance prior to solicitation and then after award, I'm not familiar with that scenario. My understanding is that you are supposed to, the organization is supposed to be compliant with the insurance, or expect to show compliance to the insurance when it's awarded the contract. And if there are questions prior to the award during the solicitation period, that's the time period where an organization has to ask questions about insurance and get clarifications on that. But that is a little bit out of my lane. That's for my Office of Contracting Procurement folks. But that is my understanding. So if I've said anything wrong, I leave it up to OCP to correct for me. And I see Deputy Director Giles came on camera.
Yes, I'm equally unfamiliar with that particular scenario. I know that the as you say, the Section I of the solicitation always dictates what the standards or the acceptable insurance requirements are required. And those are the requirements that we expect to have at the time of award when you're about to get an award. So if there's a different scenario, then I'll need more clarity on what exactly the call is talking about.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Um, is it Asia? Ashia? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Asia.
Asia. Okay. Thank you, Asia. Sorry about that.
Yeah. How you doing? Good
Yeah.
afternoon. So my
Good. Thank you.
question is, and I am a CBE new business owner here in the district, and my scope of work is to bid on government contracts, but I will be subcontracting the work out and overseeing the safety and risk management side of all projects, since it will be rewarded to unique success, which is my business. My question is, to clarify, I was told by someone on your team that regardless if I'm doing the work personally or if another company is doing the work, that we both have to have the same amount of insurance and the requirements that DC is asking. And my question is that true? And if so, why?
Yeah, so that is true, Asia. So our requirements do state that the party in the contract is the one that is responsible for having the insurance in place that's required within the contract, and to um, yeah, to be compliant in that area. And then the subs also have to have that same insurance. Um, that's the way the contracts are written. Now, the way and why is because insurance is contractual. So if like let's say we say that the subs have to carry it, there's a big chance that the insurance companies might decline that insurance, that claim that may happen, because we don't have a contractual relationship directly with the subs. We don't generally get involved with whom the contractor hires and how many people and how they manage their business, etc. So the only way that we really can make sure that the right insurance is in place is with the person that we, or the organization that we contract with.
Okay, and I have one more question, if you don't mind.
Hmm.
Um,
Sure.
I am having trouble being as though I am a new small business when it comes to like the $1 million aggregates. It was one solicitation I was looking at; they wanted 2 million. Is do y'all have any resources for new CBE business owners that can get those amount, awarded to them far as insurance? Because I don't know if I'm just saying the wrong things when I'm trying to get a quote, but it seemed like I'm having a hard
Yeah.
time to get those, to meet those requirements, especially because I don't have a portfolio or, a broker or insurance company where I've been established in history with.
Yeah, we are finding that that is an issue. Certainly having a good broker is like the number one issue that we have noticed with CBEs in particular, and particularly with new organizations. And so one of the things that, a couple of things we're planning on doing for that particular aspect is to list insurance brokers, um, and to provide that list, and then also provide podcasts on assisting with those types of access issues, and what the different insurance requirements or different types of insurance, I should say, stand for, and what they're used for, and then some additional resources. Immediately, I we don't have that resource available for publishing. I do suggest that you call maybe the Department of Insurance, Securities and Banking, and just went to my next slide here. Give them a call or send them an email. They're also working on providing, I think, what they're calling a resiliency page to help small businesses with a variety of aspects of their business in their purview, particularly in insurance. So they may be able to more immediately provide you some resources before we're able to get up and running some of the other resources we have in place. Um, but yes, having a good broker is key. And yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Let's see here. I'm gonna go back to the chat here. Okay, one of the comments here is I'm having it very difficult to obtain commercial auto insurance for my hauling and moving company. Yeah, I was told by several carriers that they don't write policies for moving companies in DC. Yeah, so I think, and I don't know, Daryl, if you were another one, this seems very similar to another question I got at another uh, webinar earlier this week. Yeah, it can be very challenging to get the required insurance in those contracts. Can also be very pricey, and we noted all those things. And the way we look at contracts is really we look at the risks that are involved. And as I mentioned earlier, we look at, primarily three things. One is, can a CBE stay in business? If it has a claim, what kind of insurance would it have to have in place? What are we responsible for as good agents for taxpayer but dollars? What would be reasonable for us to ask and get in return from insurance policy? And third, to vet organizations. So sometimes the difficulty of obtaining insurance can be multi-factor. So not just the insurance broker that one has. And I would recommend don't go with your personal broker, go with a commercial broker. Make sure that broker also has experience in your industry. Auto right now is particularly a very what we call tight market. It's a market that an insurance industry market, if you will, that only fewer and fewer insurance companies want to get into because there are a lot of claims, particularly post-pandemic, as you can imagine, more cars again on the road, etc. So that's certainly one reason why there might be difficulty to get that coverage. Another one is because there are fewer, they can be more selective. The insurance companies can be more selective in what they want to insure. We realize that obviously there's very little we can do on our end. We do have our sister agency, as I mentioned, the Department of Insurance, Securities and Banking, talking with insurance companies, talking with brokers to raise these issues with them as well, and see if we can create some additional capacity through their good efforts, or if we need to look at some regulatory remediations. But it's noted here. I noted it about the commercial auto insurance, and we'll continue to keep that on our radar. Are there any other questions, comments, suggestions? Some of you have been in the business for a while and working with the district government for a while, I see. Any comments you have to share? No. So let me just go through the contact slide here. For specific solicitations, I encourage you to go directly to the contracting officer. We've asked that you do that and not circumvent going to that person. They're the ones that are going to be able to assist you directly with a solicitation. For general contracting questions, the Office of Contracting Procurement does have what they call a Procurement Center of Excellence, Customer Contact Center. So there's a phone number there, as well as the email address. For general contracting insurance questions, feel free to contact us here at the Office of Risk Management. Again, this is just very specific to general questions, nothing related specifically to solicitation. If we do get specific solicitation questions, we do ask that you incorporate the contracting officer. Another thing I want to say on that point is that any questions you have regarding insurance for a particular solicitation, I want to reemphasize that please ask those questions during the solicitation period. Once that period's closed, it's going to be very difficult for us to talk about your insurance program, to talk about how things can be tweaked and still become compliant. because we do want to maintain a transparent procurement process. And so having those conversations afterwards, we probably won't be able to have. And then for general insurance questions, so outside of contracting, feel free to contact the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking. We talked about brokers. We talked about different types of insurance. They're able to answer those types of questions. What I didn't include here is the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection, because they're the ones that work on licensing your business, and they have insurance requirements for that, but that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about the contracting with the district government insurance. And so what we their requirements will be different than what we have. And that's where that distinction, that difference. Licensing versus contracting with the district. If there's nothing else, this chat will be open. If you have any other questions or comments available or that come to mind, feel free to just put them in there, insert them in there. Obviously, you have the contact for Department of for DSLBD, and then you have the contact information here for any specific issues. It's been, at least for the couple of points that I got here, thank you for your engagement. We've noted them, and we'll incorporate those as we finalize some things, and also to look at what resources we can provide to assist you. If there's nothing else, I'll leave it at that. So thank you, everybody. Thank you again for DSLBD for hosting, and we'll see you around.
Thank you.